a national emergency dependent on what's going to happen over the next few days.
And so the president is playing this partial government shutdown exactly as he should as president of the United States. This is not about him. It's about fulfilling a promise to the American people to secure this republic. Americans are dying because we have a wide open southern border. That's a fact. Here's another fact. We are watching the art of the deal for national security. Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., spokeswoman for Americans for Limited Government, Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie, if we don't have a national emergency at the border right now, then I don't know exactly what an emergency of national proportions looks like. I believe we've had a national ongoing emergency at the border for many, many years. You could even say many, many decades. The fact of the matter is, though, 99% of this country doesn't live within a stone's throw of the United States border. Only a small portion of our society lives near the border, and they understand what is at stake here. They understand that it's tantamount to a war zone down along the border between Mexico and California, Mexico and Arizona, Mexico and Texas, for example. So the vast majority of Americans probably don't have a grip of what's going on. But if you asked certain people, for example, the family of Officer Singh, who was slain by an illegal immigrant, they will tell you now that all 50 states are border states because of the sanctuary that these states are allowing to transpire within their borders.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head, because just because you don't live on the border doesn't mean that this doesn't impact you. These sanctuary cities have been harboring criminals throughout our country. Look at the impact MS-13 has made upon Americans, the murders that they have committed against young people. Up there in Long Island alone, the president recognized 2 families during the State of Union address last year in which their daughters were brutally murdered and cut up. Not just shot, but they were cut up in basically into numerous parts. But what we have to look at is when you see the officer who was an legal immigrant himself killed by an illegal immigrant, how much more do we need? The Democrats are holding out saying we don't need a wall when they know darn well Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, President Obama and President Clinton all advocated for a wall. This has nothing to do with the wall. This is all about President Trump. $5.6 billion is less than 1% of a $4 trillion budget. So they are being dishonest to the American people when they try to suggest that this is just wrong. I don't even know how Nancy Pelosi can look into the camera with a straight face.
Well, I don't know how their constituents are allowing them to get away with it. That's the big picture for me. You know, it's bad enough that Pelosi and Schumer and company are lying, but they're lying to their constituents, and apparently their constituents aren't calling them on it. We are right here and now, but we're not represented by these buffoons, fortunately. But I want to talk about presidential power. And the president has been ridiculed in the mainstream media and these so-called experts saying that the president doesn't have the power to declare a national emergency. The president does have the power to declare a national emergency and begin construction of the border wall. And if you look at the National Emergencies Act, there's all kinds of codicils within the National Emergencies Act, but here's just a few of them, Jesse. It's 10 U.S.C. 2304A1, allowing exemption of the National Emergencies Act, exemption of national defense contracts from competitive bidding. That's one. I have 3 of them. 40 U.S.C. 278B, regulating federal property purchases and contracts, and 50 U.S.C. 1431 through 1435, enabling the president to make national defense contracts outside of otherwise applicable rules. You know, there are some people out there saying that the president is acting like a monarch. No, he's acting within the framework of the Constitution, the Article 2 branch of government. He's acting within the framework of the law. He hasn't even pulled all the levers yet. He could if he wants to. This is a failure of the Article 1 branch of government. If you read Article 1, Section 8, it says that it's up to the United States Congress to handle immigration and secure our borders. And the president is supposed to execute the laws, of course, but this is an Article 1 function, and Article 1 is failing.
Exactly. We've had a do-nothing Congress with those Republicans in charge for the last 2 years. They failed the president also. Thank goodness Paul Ryan is gone, because too many of the leadership that was trying to say that they were about Americans and about conservatives did everything they could to obstruct this president. He is going to have to go to extreme measures simply because Democrats now are putting illegals before they are putting Americans. That is point-blank truth. We have 58,000 prisoners in federal prisons that are illegal. We have 10,000 children being trafficked across that border every year. 98% of the fentanyl and illegal drugs are coming across that border. How can you say this isn't a national emergency? Let's start looking at the stats of the number of people that have been killed. There's a reason they come over here illegally, because they probably can't come over legally. And what about Kristen Nielsen when she testified in front of Congress and Nancy Pelosi had the audacity to say to the Homeland Security Secretary, I don't believe your facts, or I'm not agreeing with your facts. She says, these are not my facts. These are the facts. When terrorists have been caught coming over the border, when is this going to stop? The Democrats have to start acting like they care about their constituents instead of acting like they hate Donald Trump. They hate President Trump more than they do love this country.
That's true. True that, for sure. And a couple of things. A lot of people are out there saying this is a dysfunctional government, what we're seeing here. This is exactly the way the framers of the Constitution wanted government to function. If Congress, the Article I branch, is not doing its job, then the Article II branch, that would be the President of the United States, is there to say, hey, Congress, do your job, fund the wall, secure the border, secure this republic. This is very, very important. It's a very, very important point that I think a lot of Americans are not really digesting, because unfortunately, they get a lot of their news from the biased mainstream media. But 49% of Americans, latest poll I saw, want immigration front and center. 49% say it is the most important, among the most most important issues. Of course, the economy is always number one, but immigration is number two. And this encompasses immigration, of course. And when Nancy Pelosi comes out and says it's immoral to build a wall, how her constituents can't come out and tell her, no, Congresswoman Pelosi, you have it backwards. It's immoral for you to not do your sworn duty and protect this republic and secure that border.
Exactly. The American government has a primary responsibility, and what is that? Keep Americans safe, defend us. Many of the other opportunities that we obtain from this government are irrelevant. They must keep us safe. And for her to say these things is dishonest and disingenuous. Yep. Even the governor of California came out and said that it wasn't because of his sanctuary policies of his state that this police officer on Christmas Day was murdered by an illegal immigrant. What happens is that they start lying and trying to reshape the narrative so that they don't have to take fault. If they had clamped down on these policies a long time ago, that officer would still be alive today.
This is true. And now there's a debate on semantics, whether it's a wall or a fence, whether it's concrete or made out of steel.
That's all they got.
This is absolutely ridiculous, and it's mind-numbing.
Or who's paying for it?
And it's demeaning to those of us who have a brain. Who cares exactly what it's made of, as long as the border is secure? And there are certain sections of the border that can't be secured by a wall or any kind of fencing, because there happens to be water there. You know, it's called the Rio Grande.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the bottom line, though, is that when you do deploy something like this, and I think in the end we're going to get this, I really believe it. I think the president is resolute. In the end, this sends a message to would-be illegals that the United States is finally serious about securing its borders. And you know what? As soon as that construction starts, they're probably going to stop trying to violate our sovereignty. Jessie Jane, thanks.